Hi, this is Diana Price, and we're here every Tuesday, 12 noon to 1 p.m., Spicy Business Talk, where we talk about all of the ingredients, the recipes for business success. And, I'm a speaker, I'm a service culture strategist, I'm a forensic expert witness, and I love getting in front of audiences and, captivating and sizzling and really engaging with my audience. And it takes a lot of practice. I love doing it. It's kind of natural for me, but I still have to work at it. So today we're talking about how to get in the spotlight and really be effective at what you're doing. So I want you to head on over to our blog post, and our blog post is dpriceassociates.com, and we're talking about the 3 things that you need to know about how to get into the spotlight. So stay with us today while we really dig deep and dive in to what you can do as a professional speaker and why you really should be getting your message across as a professional speaker. So let's get right in. I've got a lot of evidence-based stuff here for you. So the first thing I want you to really realize is if you're thinking of doing business for yourself, or you're thinking of starting a career change, if you're in corporate America, or if you are just looking to do some things to supplement your income, speaking is such a good way to do that. And speaking, first of all, amazing to get your message across. You are talking about the topic, products, and services that you love, and hopefully some things your audience can use to help solve their problems, and you can help them find some of their problems with all of your products. So when you do that, when you get your message across, guess what happens? You become an authority in your business. You become an expert, especially if you know your subject so well that you dig deep, and no matter what questions people ask you about your topic, you're prepared. Now, preparing is the key word. And I don't care how natural you are as a speaker or if you really have to work at it. Because even though I feel natural, I feel comfortable now, I still work at it. And when I say work at it, I prepare. I get in front of the mirror. I look at myself. I look at my body language. I say, okay, now, and I put myself in the audience shoes. Am I being boring? If I were listening to me in the audience, if I were in the audience, how would I be reacting? Would I be snoozing and moving? And you have to do that. And if you do that, you will be on top of your game. And I kid you not, because it is such a good thing for you to not only feel good, but to engage your audience. I can't tell you how that makes me feel. I did a workshop, a presentation in front of probably about 200 plus executives. And these executives were insurance industry executives. And I've been in the insurance and travel industry, as I've told you. And it's really difficult sometimes to get them to crack a smile. It's like really working hard. So I had to prepare for that. But because I really understood my audience, key word, understand your audience. And when you understand your audience, you have to give them what they need, not what you think they need, but really what they need and not what you want. And I'm going to get into that right now. One of the first tips, and I think it's a major focus. This is the focus of when I got started speaking. When I got started speaking, I was like, oh, do I really want to do this? How am I going to come across? What are people going to think? So, and I had the type of personality that was really corporate. I wasn't flexible with my delivery. You know what I mean? Have you ever seen an executive that has a lot of power, man, woman, it doesn't matter, and even if they're speaking freely, they sound scripted. They sound, like da 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 da. It's just a real unhuman, inflexible kind of way. And I feared that I had that kind of presentation. So the first tip that I want to share with you is to put your focus on what your audience needs. Now, when you put your focus on what your audience needs, all you're going to be doing is decide. You really got to prepare a lot of information, and then you got to cut it down. But then what they want to hear is the things that you are going to come up with. So think of yourself as being in the front row. You're in the front row. And when you come in to presentation, at least when I go into a presentation, I want to know, number one, I want to be entertained. I want to hear a good speech. I want to hear a good presentation. And I want them to talk about my needs. I want them to talk about my problems, my needs, and I don't want them to try to impress me with, whatever it is they're trying to impress me with, their knowledge. I don't want to hear all these, percentages and statistics. Yeah, I do want to hear some of that, one or two, but I don't want you to give me a presentation full of statistics. I'm going to go to sleep on that. So yes, those things have their place in your speech, but you do one or two to impress and to astound someone with, that kind of a stat. So think about the audience that you're going to be speaking to. What's the demographics? The audience that I was telling you, I just spoke to the example of all corporate executives in the insurance industry. So these are senior vice presidents, presidents of insurance companies. These are people that run large businesses and that are in control of a lot of people. So they're looking for specifics in an area. Well, in this case, I was talking about leadership and confronting your comfort zone and how you engage your employees by doing that. So I knew my audience because I've worked in that business. So when you know your audience, you're better prepared to talk the talk. And you have to talk the talk. You have to tell stories that they can identify with. You have to engage them. And engaging that audience for me was really tricky. You know what I had to do? And I thought about it. I thought about it time and time again because this was a very conservative audience. But you know what I did? I almost don't want to tell you because it worked out really well. I got them all up to begin. Of course, I asked them. I already start with asking questions. So, raising my hand, say, asking a question, so getting the audience to raise their hand. And if some of them didn't, I asked a different question to get the other part of the audience. So first I engaged them all. And after I engaged them all, I could tell, you can tell when you're starting to lose them because, people have a very short attention span. So as soon as I started to lose them, before I really started the meat of the presentation, I got them up and I got them to dance. Can you stand it? I got all these corporate executives to dance. And initially, I saw part of the room up and dancing. And then very slowly, I looked around and they were all up dancing. And, it was a stage. I did it to music and it worked out beautifully. But, you have to be careful. You have to know your audience. You can't do that to everybody. They're going to be, what the heck is this all about? Especially, corporate execs. But, at the end of that presentation, I got so many amazing testimonials that this is the best presentation I've ever been to on leadership. So, you have to know your audience and really care about the content that you share. The content that I shared was high quality, content rich. Gave them handouts. I gave them all these wonderful things that they could take back to their offices. And I got a lot of business from that. I got a lot of interaction. I got a lot of people asking me to, share more with their team. So it was a win-win for them. So when you know and you focus on what your audience needs, you got to delete 80% of what you really intended to say. When you prepare your script, your slides, your presentation, all of the things that you think you want to present, put them all on paper. And then when you start preparing your PowerPoints, when you put your information on your PowerPoints, you can't have more than 3 bullets on that PowerPoint. Have a motherhood statement and then 3 bullets. You know what a motherhood statement is, kind of an overview of what you're going to be talking about. And then the 3 bullets are really further explaining what you're actually going to be telling them about. And at the end of, well, I've got more to say about this, but at the end, and you'll hear me say this a couple times, I always talk in threes, 3 bullet points like I say on a slide, and three, all of these talk in threes. So, but at the end of the day, at the end of your presentation, you want them to go away with at least one thing, one simple thing that they have learned and they can implement. So, all right. Now, before we go on, I'm going to take a quick break because I want to share the second tip, but I want to also close out this part of staying focused on what your audience needs. You're listening to Diana Price on Spicy Business Talk. Hi, we're talking about get in the spotlight, speaking and getting your message across by getting into the spotlight. So I'm just sharing tips and evidence-based and experience that I have been so successful with, and hopefully it will help you too. And the first thing we were talking about is focus on the needs of your audience. And I was saying before that your audience comes to you to hear your presentation, to hear what you have to say, to learn about what you have to say, and to be entertained. Like it or not, believe it or not, they want an entertaining presentation. They don't want to listen to someone that's boring and bland and that has really bad delivery. They just don't want to do that. And I wouldn't either, and you wouldn't either. That's why I tell you to put yourself in the seat. And if you're in the seat, you understand what I'm talking about. You understand that you have to have a high energy presentation that sizzles, but that high energy presentation had better have high content value. So all of it all works together. High energy, sizzling, influential content, influential presentation, and content that is very enriching. And the reason I emphasize high energy and high content value is because you want to empower your audience to take your advice, to see that what you're saying is worthwhile. And it was such a great feeling when I finished that presentation to have people say, yeah, how can I get in touch with you? I had a couple handouts, and we actually had more people in the session that we thought, and they were like, can I get a copy of the handout? And I suggested that some of them take a survey to see how they are coming across from are they getting out of their comfort zone? Are they still doing the same old things when they talk to their team? So it was so refreshing to know that people really wanted more information. A lot of them joined my community in terms of, they read my blog posts now, they get my newsletter, and they call me for questions, which is so cool. So that's very empowering, and that's how you want to do and how you want your audience to feel empowered by what you say. So tip number two. Here we go. This is my favorite. Know everything that you can about your content. For me, the content was leadership. I was a leader for, I can't tell you how many years in corporate America. In addition to be a leader, I had content topics that I taught that we did, the products and services that we offered to our members. There is always a way to offer that. There is always a delightful way versus a salesy way versus a, boring and bland and don't care kind of an attitude. So when you know everything about your topic you're nothing anybody can do to stump you. Even if you get off track, you can bring yourself all the way back because you know your content. That's another secret. If you get off track, who's going to know it? You're the only one that's going to know it. So you don't want to go, I'm sorry, excuse me, I shouldn't have said. Dump that. That is not a part of it. When you're well prepared and you know your content, you can always get back on track. Smooth transitions is what it's all about. So be happy. Have fun when you speak. You see, if you notice me on my show, I love smiling. I love to have fun. Sometimes I say crazy things. It's all relative to the topic that I'm talking about, but that's because there is an energy and an emotional value for people to listen to you. So it's so important that you know your content. So if you have several topics that you're really well versed on, I want you to think about the one that you like the most. And you might be the top 2 or 3, but pick one. Pick one. Prepare a really great presentation around that one topic that you know and that you know well. When you prepare your presentation, prepare it in such a way that if you had to give your presentation to an audience of in 10 different industries, you could tailor it to those 10 different industries. You can take the nucleus, the core, and the meat of that presentation, and you can tailor it to any industry at any time. Now, the other important thing that you want to do is when you speak, you don't want to speak any more than 15, 20, sometimes you have 30 minutes. I get that. 30 minutes is cool. Now, that's just, kind of a speak. So with that presentation, I call it a signature presentation, your signature speech that you're going to want to prepare for. Have a 5-minute version of it, because if you get pulled off or something happens and, you got to stop quickly, have a 5-minute version, a 10-minute version, a 15-minute version. I only have 10 fingers, so 5, 10, 15-minute version, a 20-minute version, a 30-minute version. And if you have to have, if you've been asked to speak for an hour, then you're talking about kind of a workshop. You're talking about really providing some good information, handouts. You're talking about something that's a lot more detailed than a 30-minute speech. So if you need any help with that, let us know, because we're loving the communication and the sizzling part of all of that. So when you're on stage with your, you have your signature talk, you want to be comfortable with what you're going to say and how you're going to say it. You always want to, if you've been to Toastmasters, I've done Toastmasters, and a lot of those things are repetitive. You have to kind of repeat things over and over again. But, there's a message to how you prepare it and you do a speech. You tell people what you're going to say, and then you say it, and then you tell them what you said. So you tell them what you want to say, you say it, and then you tell them what you just said. That's very simplistic, and there's a lot more to it than that. But I want you to know that when you master your topic from every angle, you can really be a lot more creative. I was so creative in that speech. I went up and down the floor of the audience. Okay, it was being taped also from behind. So I went up and down the floor of the audience once I knew I had engaged the audience, and I asked them, what is your biggest challenge in getting out of your comfort zone when you address your people? Because I had already, prior to asking that question, I had asked for hands, and a lot of people just kind of thought, oh my God. I asked them, how many times do you really depend on a certain employee, and you delegate to that employee more than you delegate to anybody else on your team? So when you need something done, you have a go-to person, and you delegate to that person almost exclusively. Now, what does that do? That gives that person a great feeling of that you have confidence in them. awesome. So they're always going to be getting things done. But what else does it do to the team? It may create a feeling that they don't have confidence in me because he never or she never allows me to do some of that fun project work that they're always delegating to that other one person to do. So, and then I asked the question, I said, how many of you guys delegate to your team? And, all the hands went up. How many of you have a go-to person that you can really depend on and you delegate to them often? All the hands went up. I roped him into that trap. You see how I did that? And then we talked about the good part of that and the bad part of that. What if that team member, because they are so good, they get promoted and you have nobody to delegate to? Have you prepared any of your other team members? So you got to get out of your comfort zone. Of course, it was all the whole story was about getting out of your leadership comfort zone and the way that you can really convey, and capture a lot more influence and get your message and make more money and get more production. It was so fun. It was so much fun. And I used all of the examples that those insurance executives could identify with. Do you see where I'm going with that? So I knew my content. I knew everything there was to know about leadership because I was a leader. I went through this. I delegated to one person. And then I had to change that. So know your material. Be fluid. Be able to get interrupted. Go back to the topic, and when you get on stage, you're going to be really comfortable, and you're going to be able to communicate, you're going to be able to convey, and capture your audience's attention. This is Diana Price with Spicy Business Talk. Hi, this is Diana Price, and when you get on stage, you are in the spotlight. So this is what us speakers go through. I love being a speaker. I didn't really categorize myself as a speaker for a long time, but then I realized, oh my God, I've spoken. Can you believe I said that? I've spoken to audiences from, 50 to 100 to 10,000. Then I started realizing that I've really helped a lot of people get comfortable and kind of get past their nerves. So it's fun. And one of my signatures is to spice things up, to be energetic, and to really let people know that you care about them and you care about how you are relating to them. My business, Diana Price and Associates, it's all about creating exceptional customer experiences. And how do you do that? You create exceptional customer experiences by interacting, by entertaining, by caring, by knowing a lot more about your subject and about your audience than anybody else knows. So let's talk about the third tip. The third tip is to spice it up and to be energetic. Now, when people sign up to attend an event, I don't care if they pay for the event. I don't care if they get comped, whatever. They come to learn. I say this all the time. They come to learn something, and they come there to be entertained. Again, I said this earlier, they don't want to hear your bland and boring presentation. If you're going to be bland, if you're going to be boring, take it home already. Don't even show up. If you can't prepare, if your business and if the face value of what you are sharing is not worth preparation, you reconsider what you're doing. Reconsider the business that you're in, because you have to inspire your audience with good content. You have to inspire them with your message and your topic. And guess what? That's your job. If you don't do it, it's your fault. It's just as simple as that. So here we go. How do you spice it up? How do you be energetic? It starts with practice. You got to practice, practice, practice. One of the things I do is I think I told you, I get in front of the mirror, and first of all, I look at the sides of my face, this side, that side, this angle, that angle. And then when I say a few things, I practice my tone of voice. Now, how did that sound? Did that sound like I was talking at someone, or did it sound like I'm having a one-on-one conversation with you and I'm talking to you as a friend and not, as an executive that is in a box? Okay? Because I've been there. I've been on the senior leadership platform and I've been on the front lines. So from the front lines to senior leadership, you have to connect. You have to convince. You have to convey. And you can't do that if you're not being human. So you got to, just kind of release yourself to be a lot more human. So when you practice your speech, get someone to shoot a video of you, or you do a selfie. Just it's easy to do that with our phones these days. So when you look at a video, you look at yourself and you look at your whole speech from top to bottom. You hit whatever you have to say, and then you start chunking it. When I say chunking it, you start pulling it apart, one page, one word, one paragraph at a time, one sentence at a time, however you want to do that. So important to take a look first at your projection, your tone of voice, because when you're spicy in entertainment, you don't want to talk like this. You don't want to talk low. You don't want to talk like you're scared. You don't want to talk like you have no confidence in what you're saying. It doesn't work that way. Okay, I think you get the message. So your tone of voice is like huge. Now, I used to have a problem with the way I projected. I would project in a way that to me was just really robotic. It was robotic, and I would say things that were like, really? But when I listened to myself, when I got a videotape or, just an audio tape of myself, it really helped me because I listened and I listened and I listened, and pretty soon I recognize that I have a pretty decent tone of voice. So why am I not getting this? Okay. The video, the audio, all of those tools are really going to help you spice up your presentation. So when you chunk it, when you take a look at how you sound, then the next step is to take a look at your body language. Is your body language, kind of like closed? Do you keep your arms around you so that so if the people feel that you're not approachable? And it's easy to do. It's easy for people, to get a feeling that you're not approachable by what you say and your lack of confidence and, you're sitting back. You want to sit up in your seat if if you are talking and you happen to be sitting. But if you're standing, you want to use your arms in a way that's not, you're always all over the place. There's a limit. You don't want to go crazy with that. But you want to use gestures that are natural gestures. And you know what works also? When you feel comfortable and when you've engaged your audience, try, as you're making a point, touching someone ever so lightly on their shoulder. I always do it to a woman because I'm a woman, okay? And then when I feel comfortable with the entire audience, I'll touch a few women, and then I'll go, on the shoulder very lightly, just as I'm talking, and I'll put it off. Not more than a second or two. They feel then more connected to you. And then I get that eye contact, and I get that question, and I get that, head shake and nod of approval. It's just amazing what happens when you engage with someone. So then you can start building on the engagement that you've done with those few handful of people to the rest of the audience, the guys, more the ladies, and because you never want to leave anybody out. You never want to leave anybody out. So that's why you and always ask questions to your audience like, "Did you get that?" So you can get a response. So I will say something like, "Got it?" And I tell my audience in the beginning of my speech to say, if you understand what I say, you'll hear me say, "Got it?" And I want you to say, "Got it." And I'll say, "Good." So I'll say, "Did you get that?" And they say, "Got it." And I say, "Good." So that gives me some interaction with my audience. And so I guess they know me now. So when I say, "Did you get that?" "Yeah." They'll say, "Yeah," or "Go." And I say, "Good." So, and then you always want feedback. And if you don't get that feedback, guess what? Something's wrong. You're not doing something right. So when you have the audience at your fingertips, you are in complete control, and it's so good to feel like you're empowered, and the more important thing is that they are empowered by what you are saying. They've internalized your message, and they are like, "I like this." And then you can tell they can't take their eyes off you. When you move around the room, you see those eyes following you. They're just following you. Cool. Really cool. So I want you to think about your best tone, your best body language, your best way of getting out of your comfort zone in your speech and in your presentation and livening it up a little bit, whether it's using your hand gestures, whether it's sometimes doing something that's completely, they don't expect it, it's completely unexpected, because you want to inspire them to engage with you. You want to inspire them to understand your message, because your message has to be high content and high energy. High content and high energy. So start making some notes of what you need to do, what you need to adjust, the things that you need to really hone better than maybe you want it to hone them, because at the end of the day, it's you. It's your topic. Yeah, it is your topic. But you're out there, and they're looking at you. You're the face of your business. You are the expert, and you're the one that's going to get the result, the good or the bad. This is Diana Price with Spicy Business Talk. Hi, this is Diana Price, and get in the spotlight with your business. Get your message out there by public speaking, and even if you're scared, Kirsten, I've been really giving you some really good tips and tools to get started. And if you need to have someone to mentor you and really to engage and encourage you, call me at 866-631-7500. We'll work together, and we'll take it one chunk at a time. And we'll videotape you, and we'll listen to your audio, and we'll get you going. We'll get you going. Because it's so important to understand how to sizzle and to spice up your talk, to be energetic. A lot of people have such good speaking presence. I'm like, oh my God, they're so good. And they sizzle within themselves. They're so authentic with it. So when I say sizzle and spice up what you're doing, you do that within your own authenticity. You don't have to be someone that you're not. And that's what the good part about is just really being yourself with stuff. So here's some more tips that I want to share with you. When you start a speech, in order to really start engaging with your audience, tell a story. Don't make the story long. Don't let it go on and on and on and on. try to talk in sound bites, meaning that, know where the story's going to start and know where it's going to end. Tell them what you're going to say about the story. Tell them, and then tell them what you said about the story. So make sure that your story gets to the point, and it's real, and it's interesting, and it's relevant to your topic. So tell a story. I think those are... I am not a person that can be very humorous. In other words, when I tell jokes, I have to really, really memorize the joke because I'm not a joke teller. I love to laugh at jokes, but so if you're that way like I am, make sure you study the joke, study what you're going to say, the punchline, and try it out on somebody before you try it out on your audience. Okay, so use anecdotes and stories from your personal experience that are relevant to your topic. And I have some favorite people that I just love in the business world, and a lot of time I quote them. Last week you heard me quote Maya Angelou. I've quoted Nelson Mandela. I've quoted a lot of awesome people. Jim Rohn. I've quoted Jim Rohn a lot. Brian Tracy. And so I love what they teach. And I put it into my own world, and I put it into my own business. So use relevant quotes, and don't, take it out of context, and just be sure that when you use a quote, it's someone well-known. It's, or you make up your own. A lot of times I make up my own because I'm so experienced in what I'm doing now. And I have a lot of content. I have a lot of blog posts. I have things on YouTube. So... and I'm starting a podcast now, and so I have a newsletter. So a lot of things, when you go back and you look at your content, you establish your own quotes. You say, oh, look what I said. And so you kind of, adjust it a little bit, and you've got your own quote. So, and if you disagree with someone, that's okay too. Say why you disagree and what your point is. So, when you tell your stories, make sure they're relevant, and then when you use the quotations, either use your own or quote someone that is pretty prominent. That really helps you. Now, when you ask questions, I like to ask questions that sometimes are rhetorical. In other words, you know the answer to them, and, it's a question that, most people will probably say, oh, yeah. But ask those questions to engage your audience. So ask those rhetorical questions that people will say, yeah. And so you get them thinking, you get them saying, okay. And then you got them. You have them connected. They're better connected with you. And then you can interact with them a little bit better. So you don't want to always say, we're going to save questions to the end. Try to not always save your questions to the end, but yes, you have to be careful because sometimes those questions will overtake your speech and all of a sudden you don't have time to finish what you're going to say. But also, you are there for a need, and that's your audience's need. So you don't want to just think about the fact that I don't want them to ask me any questions. If they ask some questions, then it's going to take out of the time that I have to talk to them. No, you make their questions a part of what you're going to talk about. And don't be afraid to repeat certain things that are very important in your speech, because repetition is really what people learn by. They hear it over and over and over again, and then they start to accept it. Yeah? They start to accept it with the repetition. So when you communicate, I've said this before, the power of 3. Never give more than 1, 2, 3 bullets of information. 3 bullets on your PowerPoint, 3 bullets of information. It's always the best way to communicate. So I've always looked at television, and I looked at programs and TV stations, and I noticed that they speak in the power of 3 also. NBC, ABC, CNN, on and on and on. Now, there are some that speak in 4s, ESPN. So yes, there are. And those, in my opinion, those, are mostly sports, and, we can also, understand, in 4s. That's in the TV and the sports world, however. So I still think you should stick with 3s. Now, I mentioned earlier that when you're talking to someone, when you're making a presentation, you have to entertain them. So, all these statistics that you may think are so vital to what you're saying might be vital to what you're saying, yeah. But people don't want to hear all those stats. Oh, and in this year and in that time. If you can take those stats and make them entertaining, yes, that's the way to go. But when you talk about statistics, when you talk about facts, make it so that it's a aha kind of a fact. That will get your audience inspired. Now, if you have a whole speech full of facts and figures, you'll inspire them, with few of those facts, but in the long run, you are going to lose them. Period. You're going to lose them. So, now, when you make illustrations, when you do things like, I think I told you before, I kind of rope my audience into, and you know how to do this. You rope them into answering a question, and then you call them on the question. You call them on their answer. Like, how many of you guys delegate? And how many of you usually have a great go-to person that you can always delegate to? Yeah. And so that's when I went to work. Okay, so you have one person. What about all the rest of the people on your team? That one person feels great, but how about the rest of them on your team? How do they feel? And what if that go-to delegate person that you delegate to all the time gets promoted? Where are you? You're up a creek without a paddle. Okay, so those are the kind of things that you want to, use references and illustrate your point by using information that they can identify with. You have to know your audience. You have to know them so well, what they need, that everything that you bring to them, all the illustrations are things that they can really identify with. So some of the things that that I've used in the past for my presentations are PowerPoint slides. I love PowerPoint. Some people say PowerPoint is, going down the tubes. But I use PowerPoint, but I don't depend on PowerPoint. So when I have my PowerPoint presentation on my and use of slides like that, you know what I do? I told you to put no more than 3, but many times I'll put one bullet point on the PowerPoint, and I'll use that bullet point to expand and discuss and to entertain and to really engage my audience. And then another PowerPoint might have a picture and a bullet point or things like that. So they want to look at things. Audiences are visual, yeah. And if you're using good body language and if you have a tone of voice that is really bringing them into your fold and your PowerPoints are doing the same thing or your presentations are doing the same thing, then that's cool. Now, you can't always use the same media all the time. So I use PowerPoint, but in my PowerPoint, I move to a video. So I play a video of something I want them to know more about. And again, you don't want to play that video too long because that video can that can get you in trouble too if it's too long. Most people after 90 seconds, they're done with the video. Yeah, I understand. Presentations, you're going to have more than a 90-second video, but I got to tell you, after 90 seconds, they're gone somewhere. They're looking for some other form to entertain them. So I use video, I use PowerPoint slides, and I also use, some audio, and I have used things where I call people on the phone and, they talk to the audience right there live, and I'll use, a portion of my show that I've interviewed someone or something that I've said, some presentation that I've made. I've used part of those kinds of things to make my point. So it's important to not be too over-dependent on technology, because when you use a PowerPoint, you're not going to want, you better not read that PowerPoint word by word. You better not do that. If you start reading that PowerPoint word to word to word, why? The PowerPoint is just to kind of help you along, but at the end of the day, you want your audience to look at you, not your slides. you're going to be, that's not it. You don't want your audience to be looking at those slides. Then you lost them. You completely lost them. Completely. I don't like that. And I'm giving you some tips so you can really embody this. So I want to come back to another topic. And I hope these public speaking tips are resonating in your membranes, in your authenticity, because you can do this. And it takes just a little practice. Whatever it is that your topic is, I want you to think about what that topic is and how you can deliver it masterfully. You know who I think are, and I'll come back and tell you that. I'll come back and tell you a little bit more about some of my favorite public speakers. This is Diana Price with Spicy Business Talk. Hi, this is Diana Price, and I have just really enjoyed talking about how to get in the spotlight and how to get your messaging across so you can be the face of your business and you can become the expert. You can be recognized for all the details, the thoughts, the skills, and the message that you have to present. Let me tell you a little bit about some of my favorite orators, my favorite ones. One of my favorite speakers in terms of, now, I'm not talking about the person themselves, I'm talking about the way they speak. So I want you to get this, that when I say how they speak, I want you to go back and listen how they can be captivating, how they can be convincing, and how they communicate. Bill Clinton. Go back and look at how Bill Clinton captivates an audience. And another one that captivates an audience is President Obama. President Obama is an amazing orator, just an amazing orator. Now, a couple people that to me are either camera hogs or I shouldn't say camera hogs, but they say things when they're on camera and they're not like that in person. I really shouldn't tell you. No, I don't think I'm going to tell you those people because that's not right. But you go back and see what I'm saying, and just take a look at people that you think are not really genuine when they speak. Meaning that they may say something, and how many people have been caught saying things that they really shouldn't say in this world? You can probably name a lot, and you don't need one hand. You could use a whole room full of people to identify those people. But anyway, the point that I'm making is that when you know your stuff, you can captivate, you can convince, and you can communicate like nobody else. So let me just tell you that from my perspective, I've been there. I've been at the beginning of the phase when I wanted to start speaking. And now I've helped well over 1,000 business professionals to get rid of their nerves, to really speak a little bit more with spice and sizzle. And that's getting into the authenticity of who they are. It's not being someone that you completely are not. Guess what it takes to do that? It takes focused responsibility. You have to focus on what you want to do, and you have to take responsibilities. The main topics that I love to teach and to love to speak about is, number one, sculpting a culture of engagement. When you sculpt a culture of engagement, it is all about the service that you provide, how you engage your employees, how you engage your community, how you engage your customers, how you engage, how you portray, what you do, how you behave. All of that is a culture of engagement. The other thing I love to talk about is game-changing leadership strategies. I am in your face about strategies and how to change your game. been there, done that. You know, as a black woman in corporate America, I've gone through some things. And a lot of times you have to choose to get a rise above challenges and adversities that are put in your face. And when you don't do it the right way, you get in trouble. And guess what? It may not be your fault all the time, but you have to choose to be the leader. You have to choose to take responsibility for your actions. 'Cause at the end of the day, regardless of whose fault it is, you may come up with the short stick, and that's not a good thing. The other thing I love to teach and talk about is how to attract more clients by communicating in a more effective way, in a more sizzling way, in how to be a lot more convincing and influential. Those are the three main topics that I talk about. And it's all about the ingredients, and I provide the recipes, how to be successful in your own right. So I've helped so many people with this, and you've seen people on my show. You've seen how, you know, we've kind of interacted together. Some people that have come on the show, they're going, oh my God, you didn't tell me that this is going to be a video and people are going to be able to see me right now. And so that's my job, to really calm them down and allow them to just shine. And it's a pleasure to do that. I just love doing that, because before I did this, before I was president and CEO of Diana Price and Associates, before I was, you know, here as host and producer of Spicy Business Talk Radio, I was in corporate America as a senior leader. And it's a little more structured in corporate. It's a lot more structured in corporate America. But I was, you know, doing, you know, travel operations, regional operations, budgeting, planning, marketing, customer service, doing leading and training, and, you know, doing some HR planning and all that sort of stuff for your team. So that's really provided a good pathway for me. So I love what I do. And then, of course, doing all that time, well, during the time I was in corporate America, I started low in the totem pole. But as I was starting low in the totem pole, I thought to myself, I need to get a master's degree. So I went to USC and I got a master's in communications management. So I would be delighted to work with you, whatever your plight is, and however you think you need to get your message out there and be the face of your business. So please contact us at 866-631-7500. And you can also reach us at Diana at DianaPriceAssociates.com. Sign up at dpriceassociates.com so you can be a part of our community. Go to our YouTube page, which is Spicy Business Talk. You'll see a lot of videos. You'll see a lot of teaching, a lot of training, a lot of things that you can use as tools in your life and in your business. Because at the end of the day, we're here to balance your business from top to bottom and balance your life from inside and out. It's been a pleasure. See you next time.